Today, we've got an absolutely massive mod to check out, but of course, we also have a bunch of other mods to go along with it. So sit tight because we've got some truly amazing stuff to take a look at this week. Now, first, a quick apology because I am feeling a little bit under the weather, so if you notice that in my voice or things sound a little bit off, then that is exactly why. It's been coming and going the last couple of weeks, but today it's kind of hitting a little heavy, so just keep that in mind. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and start talking about some of these truly amazing mods. Starting off with the Attachment Pack, Unofficial Expansion, and Refinement by micalov. This is going to be a massive add-on to my already existing Attachment Pack. For those who somehow aren't familiar, the Attachment Pack is going to add attachments to nearly every weapon in the game. Pretty much every firearm in the game is going to be getting a whole new suite of attachments that make it almost into a totally new weapon. Super customizable, super modifiable. Well, micalov has taken that and taken it a step further. There are a few huge additions that we need to talk about, starting off with the fact that micalov has done all of the melee weapons. Something we had planned on doing eventually, a melee attachment pack. micalov has kind of beat us to the punch and done it already as an expansion to the existing attachment pack. Now, since this is an expansion, it's going to require the original, but if you're a fan of this, you're probably going to be a fan of the attachment pack. I see no reason why you wouldn't be using both if you're interested in overhauling the vanilla weapons. micalov refers to this as an unofficial expansion, but quite frankly, I do officially endorse this. micalov has worked with us a bunch. He even did some stuff for the original attachment pack, so this is by all means a definite spiritual successor to the attachment pack. I say go use both of these. They're both fantastic, especially micalov's. The stuff that he's done here is fantastic. So like I said, he did all of the melee weapons. Every single one now has attachments, and most of them are pretty dang cool. I think the only melee weapons that got left out are melee weapons that already had a good set of attachments, but things that didn't got a huge overhaul. I really love some of the new stuff added to the machete, the power fist. The sledgehammer got a lot of love, as well as the super sledge got a really cool axe head that looks fantastic. There's a lot of awesome stuff in here. And for the most part, it's not just simple little attachments either. There's a lot of really cool in-depth ones, like adding a ton of electrical attachments to the combat knife, because not only is there one electrified blade, but there's an electrified version of every blade, both vanilla and the ones that were added by micalov. So there's time and care to make all of this stuff sort of mirror vanilla, which is exactly what I would have tried to do myself if I was going to do a pack like this. But that's not all. micalov has also added more attachments to the guns and firearms in this mod as well. Now, for starters, micalov went and touched all of the weapons that we didn't. Weapons that we thought were so unique didn't really need an attachment pack. micalov said, screw it, I'm going to do that anyways, and did things like the cryolator and the Tesla rifle from the Automatron DLC. Those actually got attachment add-ons thanks to micalov, so that's really, really cool. But even weapons that we already covered, micalov decided to add some of their own twists to it, including a huge EM barrel for the double barrel shotgun, which is going to basically make this thing into a Gauss rifle. It looks so cool, it's a lot of fun, and it just, it really, really tickles something inside of me. It reminds me a lot of the sort of Gauss shotgun weapon from Cyberpunk, but in Fallout. It looks super cool. And that's not all. There's tons of attachments for the existing weapons, so if you're using the attachment pack plus this, you'll have so many customization options, you can make some truly insane creations. To be honest, I'd love to see what some of you guys come up with, because there's a lot of potential for all of these mods put together, plus other attachment packs that exist out there in the world. And what's really crazy is all of these new additions don't stop here. micalov has been adding to this thing non-stop, updating it all the time. Since I last recorded footage for this, micalov has already added in the cryolator, the minigun, some really cool changes to the hunting rifle, including separate receivers for whenever you use 50 cal or 38. The receiver shape will actually change to better suit that caliber, as well as the magazines, which is just so cool. micalov is doing a fantastic job, honestly. Should have put him on the team whenever we were making the first attachment pack. Now, if that wasn't enough, micalov has done the impossible. Something I've said not couldn't be done, but probably shouldn't be done. micalov has made every attachment in the attachment pack capable for using skins from the Creation Club. Now, whenever people ask me about this all the time, they said, can you please add support for skins? And I've said, it doesn't really work like that. All of my stuff is made from scratch, and skins only work with vanilla textures. So I would either need to make new textures for all the skins, or I would have to remake all of the attachments using vanilla assets, which I just couldn't really feasibly get around my head doing that. I just put all this work into making them from custom scratch models and textures. I'm not going to go back and remake them with vanilla textures, sort of a thing. Well, micalov did that. micalov put in the insane amount of effort of taking every single attachment that we made and remade it using vanilla UVs. Now, to be fair, this is sort of micalov's area of expertise. He takes a mesh and he remaps it to the UVs of vanilla textures pretty well. So now, pretty much everything in the game can be used with Creation Club textures. That being said, it is going to change the base texture to not look like mine anymore. It's going to use vanilla textures. In some cases, you might notice a small little quality loss, like maybe a wood stock has some stretched grain or texture. But for the most part, it looks pretty good. You will lose out on some small things, like on the laser rifle Watts barrel, instead of the cool caution tape sort of look. It's just going to be standard metal because there isn't really a mirror for that in vanilla that micalov could have used as a source. That being said, if you like the Creation Club skins and that's something that you really want, this is going to be a great option for you. Luckily, all of these options are actually configurable, and you can pick and choose which parts of Micalov's pack you want. If you want all the melee attachments, you can have them. If you want all the new weapon attachments, you can have those too. If you want the Creation Club skins, you can have that. But you can also choose to disable any of these features when you install the mod for the first time. And if you don't like something, you can always reinstall it and check different boxes so you get the perfect version of this mod for you. So now I get to have all of the wonderful new attachments and melee attachments for my game, but I'm going to keep my original textures because I don't actually own any of the Creation Club skins, and I like the textures that I made originally. But luckily, you get to pick exactly what you want for your load order, which I think is fantastic. It should probably go without saying, but all of the attachments are also added to the mod collection, so they will be found out in the world on enemies. All of the melee weapons, all of the guns, everything will be added to the mod collections from the original attachment pack, so all of this stuff will spawn in your game, and that is just awesome. I've been talking about this one for quite a while, but there's a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and jump into the next mods. But before we do, the attachment pack update is fantastic from micalov. Go download it, it's so amazing. I really can't recommend it enough. It's hard to show everything in one small segment, but you just gotta play with it yourself. It's fantastic. Now, the next mod we have is actually another really cool one by BP42S. This is Minutemen Watchtowers, a survey add-on. This is going to add in the feature that was apparently present in Fallout 76, that is going to take the Minutemen Watchtowers created by Spiffy Skytrooper and allow you to survey the area around you to actually get more data on the map and the world that you are kind of exploring. So, if you climb up to the top of one of these Minutemen Watchtowers, which of course this is going to require the Minutemen Watchtower mod, if you get to the top of one of these, you'll have a new option if you approach any of the railings to survey. As long as you just sort of point your camera out into the void, you'll see an option that says press E to survey, and if you do, it will unlock little map markers all around you. Now, I'm not sure if this is done by a radius or if it's a set amount of map markers, but I think it actually is dynamic because I have some modded locations in that seem to appear when I'm using this mod. So I believe it is actually done very well and probably uses a sort of a radius. So any modded locations you have will also be discovered with these towers. Now, to show this off, you'll see it a couple times in the footage here. I disabled all of my map markers. I go to this tower, hit enable, and then you'll see all of these map markers pop into my Pip-Boy. However, they're not going to be discovered as if you've been there. They're just going to be shown as the highlighted version so you know that they're there, which I think is perfect. Perfectly balanced. You can't just fast travel to them willy-nilly, but you know that they're there, and so you can go and explore. Just in case you're not somebody like me who has pretty much memorized the map at this point, you have a little bit more exploration in your game, and I think that's pretty cool. If you're somebody who wants to 100% the map and go and get every nook and cranny, every single dungeon, this is a great mod for that because it's going to allow you to uncover some things that maybe you might have passed up if you might have just walked by. It's also great if you're using modded locations that add new stuff that you just don't know about in the first place. You might uncover some great ones. One I would highly recommend using with this mod is actually Caves of the Commonwealth, which adds a ton of new locations to the game, and they're all actually, weirdly enough, sort of by all of these towers, so it's perfect. You can go to one of these towers and you can uncover some of these new caves and dungeons that are all really cool, wonderfully handcrafted dungeons that are just kind of neat, and they work perfectly together since this mod seems to uncover those. Honestly, really fantastic one. It's a wonderful gameplay mod, so if it's something you want to check out, you can try it out using the link down in the description below, along with all of the other mods in this video. Next mod we're checking out is going to be an armor by Dominator V111. This is known as the Anti-Power Armor. It's going to be a sort of Enclave-inspired set of armor, but it isn't Enclave exactly. It's going to be a one-of-a-kind set of armor as well, so you're only going to be able to get one of these. It is not added to the leveled lists, and that makes sense because I'm not sure who exactly would be wearing this one. This does seem like a sort of discoverable armor, something akin to the Remnants armor that you would find in Fallout New Vegas. Given the assets used, this is going to require the Enclave Remnants Creation Club, so if you are going to use this, you're going to need that. I believe that all of that is included if you did the big upgrade. If you didn't do the upgrade, I'm afraid there's no other way to get that content, I'm pretty sure. I haven't really looked into it too much, but if you just do the upgrade, you should have access to all of this stuff. I think at this point in time, upgrading is pretty inconsequential. You don't really have to worry too much about things breaking as long as you update your F4SE. Everything should just be good to go. Now, here's some weird stuff with this mod. This mod is actually one of the few armors I've ever seen that is available only for male characters. I've seen a lot of female-only armors, but I haven't seen too many male-only armors. The reason for this is that the author says they play a male character and they just didn't feel like making a female one. That's kind of disappointing. It sucks for people who do want to play a female character and want to use this armor, but I'm sure making a patch wouldn't be that difficult. Matter of fact, there's probably already one out there by now, and not only adds it to female, but probably adds it to CBBE even. Like I said, there are no level lists, and there's no crafting for this either. If you want to get your hands on this armor, it is actually implemented as a one-off location. If you head over to the National Guard training yard and head to the armory, the little building in the back that would spawn the sentry bot, head inside there, get behind the locked door, and that's where you'll find this thing, sort of laying by where you would also find the power armor and the weapon storeroom. I know I'm a big supporter of level-less integration, but when it comes to armors and stuff like this that feels really unique, having a one set location isn't bad at all. It's just like finding a unique weapon in the base game, so I don't mind this whatsoever. I do wish it does have more support for like female versions and different stuff like that, but you know, you take what you can. Dominator does say this is going to be their last mod. This is their exit to the modding scene, which is a shame because it seemed like a pretty short-lived run. Dominator put out a couple of really cool mods and then just kind of disappeared into the ether, so if you want to get your hands on this one, you should check it out now because it is going to be the last one you get from them. But it is a really cool one. It's a really nice set of armor. It looks really neat, really unique. If you're a fan of the Enclave style, then this could be a perfect armor for you. Now, the next mod we're checking out is going to be an interesting new mod for your settlement, known as the Scrap Press Machine by Morita K, or dnfrealtec. dnfrealtec. Username I'm not familiar with, to be fair. This is going to add a brand new machine to your settlement that is going to turn any items that you insert into it into scrap. Now, obviously, this is something you can do in the base game. You can scrap items over at the weapons workbench or at armor workbench. I forget how you scrap junk items. I haven't sat and played Fallout 4 in quite some time. If I remember correctly, if you just throw any of your junk items into the workbench, as soon as you start crafting stuff for your settlement, it sort of just converts them automatically, but also you can throw them on the ground and scrap them that way. Well, what this mod is going to allow you to do is take any item, whether it's a weapon, armor, junk item, etc., throw it into the machine, activate it, and it's going to smush down all of these items to a nice flat pancake, and then put them into an output box that gives you all of the junk associated with these items. And in some cases, that could be a pretty valuable trade-off if you're getting things like gold and other fancy resources. What's really cool about this is it's not just a simple static machine, this thing's actually fully animated. When you interact with it for the first time, a nice tray will open up, you throw all the items inside and it closes, and then a big, gigantic pneumatic press is going to slam down super hard, and it's going to shake your screen, everything's going to be really loud, really violent, and then all of the items will actually pop out on the conveyor belt, move over to the right into the last little box there where you can collect all of the junk items. And it already has a built-in filter. Anything that cannot be scrapped will not be scrapped. If you throw in like legendary weapons or unique weapons that have that tag, they won't be scrapped. They won't be turned into parts, they will just pop out on the end as something, so you can't actually destroy stuff that you don't mean to destroy. If you throw something in on accident that's too valuable, it won't destroy it. It's gonna leave it just as it should be. Especially if you throw in things like chems or, like I said, unique weapons, unique armors, that kind of stuff is not going to be destroyed. So if you're emptying your entire inventory, you can kind of just sort it out like that, easy peasy, and then throw all the junk away and sell the valuables. A pretty cool little system in just one machine. When I first got a look at this, I thought it was going to require automatron and need to be connected to all those machines, but this is actually just one simple piece, and it does not require automatron because all of this is custom modeled, textured, and animated. So this is standalone, this is its own thing. If you don't want to use Automatron, this is a perfect little mod that's just going to add this feature standalone. Also, I just realized I said Automatron a bunch when I meant the Workshop DLC. Whoops. Either way, a fantastic little gameplay mod, a really cool one that I think I'm going to be keeping around. Love just throwing stuff in here and smashing it into bits. I'm sure there's a purpose out there for you crafters who really will need all of the raw materials as opposed to the actual junk items. So, really cool mod, really, really cool stuff. And it makes it so that you can just batch dump a bunch of weapons in here. If you're collecting weapons and you want the scrap out of them, you can throw them all in at once instead of needing to scrap every single one individually. That alone is going to be worth downloading just for me, personally. And the last mod we're checking out is going to be a new weapon mod by TheProxyGod known as the Nail Oil Carbine, which is going to add actually two weapons, a nail gun and a battle rifle, that is going to use a brand new sort of ammo type, a really funky one, as well as 6 uniques to find. So like I said, 2 new weapons. One is going to be the nail gun, which is a pistol that uses pipe pistol animations. It's going to fire little nails that are, for the most part, pretty standard, but you can get versions that do some pretty crazy stuff. This weapon has an integrated shield and some fun, goofy attachments. Most of this stuff is made out of vanilla assets, but there are some custom textures thrown on, so that's a pretty interesting combo. There's also some custom modeled stuff too. It's sort of a mishmash of both styles, and it's going to use its own custom nail ammo type. Like I said, there are 3 uniques that are pretty crazy. Outside of the standard nailgun, you also have the Crucifier, which is going to inflict bleed damage and do bonus damage to ghouls. And instead of the shield, has a crucifix mounted to the front of this thing. The Blood Spender is going to be a healing version of this that fires healing syringes, so you can actually use it as sort of a medic weapon to heal your allies. That's pretty cool. And then there's the Demolisher, which is my personal favorite, that shoots timed explosive shots. So whenever you shoot them out, it's going to explode only after a certain amount of time. Now, this doesn't work when you hit enemies, but if you shoot the ground in front of enemies, it basically works as a little timed mine. And you can throw out a lot of these. I think you'll see a lot of footage of that, just shooting the feet around enemies, and then eventually it'll explode and cause some pretty big damage compared to just getting a direct hit. You actually want to miss with this gun. Now for the Carbine, we have a sort of different weapon. We do have the kind of rail spike nail gun sort of projectile, but there's also a separate version that uses a sort of grenade launcher that will fire incendiary grenades. So depending on which ammo you want, you can use either of those to have different effects. Both of the ammo types can be crafted over at the chemistry station. Now on top of that, there's also 3 uniques for this one as well. There's one known as the Demon, which is a gunner themed one, which will give you a handful of buffs while it's in your hands. And you can get this one over at Gunner's Plaza. You can find the Red Queen, which is going to deal bonus damage with headshots, because off with their head. And it's going to have a pretty interesting red and white sort of card themed paint job. And finally, there's one known as the Arm, which is going to inflict shock damage and have a chance to paralyze enemies. So that's pretty cool as well. 6 uniques for 2 already pretty unique weapons. And it's also going to require the burst fire framework because there are versions of this thing that have burst fire, because why not? If you want a truly unique weapon that's absolutely crazy, sort of a Lovecraftian vibe to this thing, this is definitely one that's worth checking out. It's got an interesting style. It might not fit in everybody's game, but it is definitely a unique one. Maybe it works as a great hero weapon. Maybe there's something in here with the uniques that is perfect for your character. Either way, if you want to check it out, it will be linked down in the description, like I said, with all of the other mods in this video. Consider checking any of these out and supporting the authors because they're doing some truly fantastic work. Truly a jam-packed week, some really, really good stuff. I think there's no reason you don't download all of these mods depending on your load order, but there's some really good choices for pretty much anybody out there. Survey and the attachment pack add-on are truly fantastic, ones that I could not recommend enough. But there's some other good ones in here as well. Really like that Scrap Smasher too. So, like I said, you want to check out any of these, they're all in the description. And while you're down there, if you enjoyed the video, consider dropping the video a like. It really helps out the channel and lets me know what kind of stuff you guys like to see. Additionally, for those of you who are interested, you can also support me on Patreon. It is, of course, completely optional, not something you should feel like you need to do, but for those who are interested, it is one of the best ways to support me directly, whether it's the videos here on YouTube or the mods I make on the Nexus. Either way, it's the best way to do it, but again, completely optional. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace!